Hello everyone, my name is Asif and I lead Salesforce practice at Royal Cyber. I welcome you all on behalf of Royal Cyber today's webinar. Today we are going to talk about holiday readiness and we'll keep our focus on Salesforce Commerce Cloud as an e-commerce platform and then how it is aligned or what are the checklists or what are the areas which we need to focus on when it comes to holiday readiness. So I will have today Usman Mahmoud with me. He is our senior Salesforce Commerce Cloud technical architect, and he would be walking us through to some of the technical aspects of holiday readiness. Um, uh, he'll be walking us through a kind of a checklist of what exactly we need to prepare when it comes to holiday readiness, and what are the areas which we need to review and overlook before we enter into the online shopping season of holiday readiness. All right, so the agenda looks like this. I'll give you a quick walkthrough of Royal Sabre, what who we are, what we do, and then we'll talk about some holiday readiness facts. Why holiday readiness is important. We'll talk about the challenges, and we'll talk about some myths of holiday readiness. Then I'll give it to Usman, and Usman is going to talk about, specifically from the technical side, what are the areas which we need to look at when it comes to the checklist of holiday readiness. What components or modules or areas which we need to overlook, which we need to review their configurations, their setting, before we go into the holiday readiness season, where we expect a lot more traffic than the normal business days. Okay. Uh, then there will be some key points which will walk you through, which we need to check before the holiday readiness. We'll also share some case studies of what we have done with our existing and past customers when it comes to holiday readiness or the performance of their websites before we enter into the season of holiday readiness, and then we'll open the forum for the question answers. All right, so quickly about Royal Cyber. So Royal Cyber is a system integrator company. We are Salesforce Commerce Cloud Silver level consulting and link partners. Um, we are into this e-commerce industry or into this IT space for last 22 years, and we have global presence. We have around 8 operational offices in different countries of the world, which includes USA, where our head office is. We have our office in Canada. Our major development centers are based out of in India and Pakistan. It's around a 1,000 plus resource company. There are almost 1,000 plus employees globally, and it's a kind of a one-stop shop. You engage with Royal Cyber in any capacity, which includes e-commerce, which includes mobile application development, which includes BI, analytics, middleware, integrations, cloud services. You all you get all of these services from the specialized people with specialized skill set in these areas under the umbrella of Royal Cyber. You don't have to choose and pick any other vendor for any third-party integrations, for any middleware integrations, or for any cloud services. You get all of these services within the one umbrella of Royal Cyber. So Royal Cyber, our vision has been very clean and clear. It's a one vision that if a customer wins, we win. It's a win-win situation for for the customer. When we engage with the customer, we have a very high customer retention ratio. We do have customers who are working with us for almost 1 decade, who have been working with us for 5 years, 6 years. We are their technology partners. We are designing and defining their roadmap, in terms of how they can progress and grow their business within the field of e-commerce. So it's a complete, I would say, a digital transformation or a kind of a digital transformation shop where you can come and buy and get the services whatever you need to fulfill your business needs. We've been awarded as the as the best companies to work with. We've got the product innovation and brand experience B2B award. Um, these are existing customers. So we, as I said, that we've been working with the customers. There are customers who've been with us for almost more than a decade. You see here different names: Humana, Appleback, Aramark. All these customers are long-term customers, and some of them, are Salesforce customers where we have engaged them, within the capacity of Salesforce Commerce Cloud or Salesforce CRM. All right, so let's talk about holiday readiness. Now, why the holiday readiness is so much important. Uh, So the first and foremost is, if you see some numbers, in last 2 years, especially within the time of COVID, you see the numbers has gone, has touched the sky. You see, last year the online sales was over 1.14 trillion dollars, and out of that, 257 billion dollars was only from US, and that is only the time of the holiday readiness, the season which starts somewhere around mid or late of October and goes till December. Um, Now, so why we need to have our checklist reviewed to cope up the traffic which comes to the site, especially in these months or in these days. You see these facts: 40% of the consumers abandon a page if it takes longer than 3 seconds to load, and this is pretty normal in the normal business days. But when it comes to holiday season, customers expects more, I would say, quicker response time when it comes to pages, whether they are doing the checkout or they are just logging in, they are browsing or navigating through the site, checking the products on the product page, or searching the products. They want response time to be within 1 or 2 seconds to appear on the page. Otherwise, they just go and look for another sites or another storefronts to shop for. So, end of the day, if this is not corrected, during the business days, normal business days, or specific to the holiday season, you are actually losing your business because customers abandon their cart and they go away. Uh, and yes, I mean, in last 2 years or 3 years, the mobile experience has, or the trend of shopping online on mobile has rise a lot. um, uh, on the mobile, it says that the optimum mobile time, the load time is 4 seconds. But again, I mean, at the same time, when you talk about the holiday season, when there's a lot of traffic coming on the storefront on the website, um, it's hard to maintain this 4 seconds. I mean, even customer expects this should be less than 4 seconds. So these are all the challenges. I mean, there are some facts and challenges to that how we can cope up with this high volume of transactional and non-transactional data. Um, uh, what we have experienced in this past year or so, every customer looks for convenience. I mean, you facilitate customers with different features, with different options on the online shopping store. They will come to you. They will come to your store again and again. So it's not more about the brand, but it's more about the convenience. It's more about the features which you offer to the customer on the storefront. For example, buy online, pick up in store. That's one of the very cool feature which has been there for last 2 3 years now, and shoppers are extensively using this feature and making excellent use of it. and it's a great convenience for them. Then, for example, you buy now and pay later. So you buy the product and you pay in different installments. You have different third party applications which you can integrate with your within your Salesforce Commerce Cloud systems. One of them is Affirm, Desjardins. All these are the names which you can have integrated with your Salesforce Commerce Cloud system or with your e-commerce storefront to make use of this buy online, buy now and pay later feature. One again, I mean, it's all about convenience. It's all about how you are accommodating or how you are facilitating your customer with all of these features. Um, So here, 52% of the customers expects offers to always be personalized. Now, this is another way you can facilitate or you can give convenience to the customers. You give them their personalized products based on their likes and dislikes of the past order histories. Now, in today's time, customer data platform (CDP) is emerging, and every retailer, every customers which are hosting the e-commerce platforms, they are trying to make use of the CDP. uh, and Salesforce has recently introduced this Salesforce Genie, where you can have the data coming from a lot of external sources, customer data, and then you harmonize or collate that data within the Salesforce Genie platform, and based on the outputs you are sending those personalized products or personalized messages to the customers, so that or showing them the personalized view of the products which they like. This actually increase your conversion, increase your uh, you know your business growth. So so yeah, I mean, again, as I said, that it's all about convenience. These are all the ways you can facilitate your customers, and you can have your customers come back to you. um, and at the end, whenever customer comes to shop, I mean, these are the main areas which they need to be very clean and clear, very smooth, which is login, and then they should be able to do the add to cart and the checkout. So these flows should be smooth, as smoother as they should be. They should be prominently available on the website. Add to cart button should not be hidden on any corner. Login button should not be hidden on any corner where customer cannot look at it, either on the web or on the mobile. So they should be very clean and clear, available on the website for customers to navigate and shop. All right, so now I'm going to give it to Usman, and Usman is going to take over from here. He'll walk us through to some of the important aspects of holiday readiness. All right, over to you, Usman. Thank you.
Thank you, Asif. Hello, everyone. My name is Usman, and I'm working as a technical architect for Salesforce Commerce Cloud at Royal Cyber. Let's start with some general myths about SFCC holiday readiness. We know that SaaS scales automatically, but in reality, it can be limited by many factors such as custom caching, or the caching mechanism that you are using, the custom code that someone has written and it's not properly optimized, the integration failures to the web services or the jobs. So there can be a number of factors. So scaling the hardware might not always resolve those issues. So it's always a good idea to have a look at your code, how things are working before going into the holidays season, of course. The second myth is if the performance is good today, it will be good in the holiday seasons as well. That is not always true. Under the increased load, we might need to plan ahead for proper load testing and identify any bottlenecks that might limit the site performance under high traffic. The third myth is there is nothing my team or partner can do, as SFCC is a black box in order to improve the performance or by looking into the performance. The truth is you have access to tools. We have to measure and tune performance of your site so that you can have to access the tool that might help you in order to measure the performance and fine tune the things and pages, right? uh, Moving forward, next we are going to discuss the key areas of focus while inside holiday season or before the starting of the holiday season, which areas you need to focus in order to make sure your site performs well in the holiday season. So the first thing that needs to be done is to plan upfront. Let Salesforce know about your expectation, your expected volume of traffic by looking at your historical reports in the same season in the past year, maybe. Work closely with your technical account manager and customer success manager to meet your expectation during the holiday season. You might want to open a sport case proactively before going into the holiday season with Salesforce, so that they might help you uh, with setting up the things for the holiday, right? And they know upfront that they need to scale your website and your load, things like that. All right. So the areas of focus, the other areas of focus are the job framework. Migrate legacy jobs to the new job framework if you haven't already, to ensure the optimal performance during the holidays. Web service framework, review web service calls in source code and convert those not using the web service framework. Web calls are costly, so you need to ensure that they are into the latest web service framework provided by SFCC, which makes sure that the best practices are followed, and if the web services are hung, they are reported properly in the business manager, and that you can track them, enable, disable them, and things like that. You need to plan your load tests. If you plan to use a little RAM, make sure it will be available when you are ready to test. Other than that, uh, you review the features and discuss their enablement to help safeguard your site against malicious traffic. The ECDN and the firewall features. It is important, especially not even in the holiday season. Other than that, it's important, but do make sure that all the features are properly in place for your ECDN and application firewall. The other security areas, all right, so that there are some security areas that you need to focus before the start of your holiday season, although it is important throughout the year, but especially before the holiday season you need to make sure that these areas are covered, right? So for example, to ensure that you have a track of all the open commerce API client IDs that have been created to date, and if any of them is not being used, you might want to disable it. Ensure if communicating with a third party server, you have the list of allowed IP list with yourself, and your IP addresses are with your third parties. If they need to whitelist your IP addresses before going into the holiday season, make sure that the list is on the both places, right? Ensure that a proper track of allowed user and your permission is in place. So you need to know before going into the holiday season which users will be accessing your system, right? What permission they have. So a good list of having all those permission is a good thing. Then again, the Salesforce Commerce Cloud requires multi-factor authentication is in place for your organization. Just ensure that all users are using multi-factor authentication to access your system. Other than that, it is already mandatory to use two-factor authentication to upload your code to the platform. Then again, before going to the holiday season, plan and execute any data cleanup strategy to remove unused data or metadata from your system so that it does not make your system heavy. All right. So the next area of focus is monitoring your quotas and limits, right? Monitoring quota violations is very useful, especially before the holiday season. Look for any quota violations. If possible, try to get them removed by the developers, right? Before they make some bigger troubles for you. If it is not possible due to a business need, at least create a sport ticket with Salesforce to get it relaxed for the time being. Although it is not guaranteed, but you might be able to get it relaxed depending on how much performance impact it might have. So don't forget to set up quota violations in the business manager as well. So they might help you to know in real time if a quota issue arises, and you can so make sure if there are any quota issues, you might want to resolve them before the holiday season, because in the holiday season the traffic will already be high. So if there are any quota violations are there, so you might lose some prospective customer, right? Other than that, do review your reports and dashboard to see performance trends, along with reviewing all your link cartridges for any security upgrades that you might need on your link cartridge level, or any other upgrades that the third party has provided, right? You might want to validate all the custom preferences are in place and properly configured for those third party link cartridges. So, other than that, review RAM peak traffic projection and create the necessary request with adequate realm sizing with Salesforce. As I discussed earlier, you just need to have a projection report with you, so you can tell Salesforce, okay, we might, or we are expecting this kind of, or this level of traffic, right? So they can prepare accordingly, right? Review code and data replication process to follow the best practices. Start defense and mitigation planning. Review import export folder sizes to ensure they don't adversely impact your performance when you are in the holiday season. So don't make sure your folder sizes are not growing, and make sure to purge or the files that are not being used anymore. So regarding the web services framework, review your configurations to ensure optimal or best settings for timeout, circuit breakers, limits, and rate limits. If a code audit has been done, make sure all the recommendations have been fulfilled before the holiday season starts. So, for example, most of the merchant do, they start a code audit before the holiday season to ensure that the code is properly performing and each and everything is in place. But if there are any issues or hotspots, they you might want to get them fixed before getting into the holiday season. Then the other area of focus is that most of the merchant in USA, they freeze the code typically in November, uh, just to ensure that no code level changes are there before going to the holiday season, and you don't want to get surprised by anything. you know you review all the job schedules to ensure minimal impact to the performance. You work with the Salesforce to make sure that everything is in place, as I or told earlier, that you might want to get in contact with Salesforce before going into this holiday season to make sure that they are there to help you in time. So creating a ticket would be enough for this purpose. Yeah, the other area of focus is the disaster recovery. Failover is automatic on Salesforce side. In event of disaster recovery, you have the new outgoing IP addresses. Make sure your third-party integration have all the complete list of Salesforce outgoing IP addresses in their firewall. Just in case there's a failover, you might want to connect them and make sure that they have your latest IP addresses. Right. The benefit will be that the failure will be seamless. Right. Okay. The other area of focus is operational readiness. Go through your review list of activities that need to be done with your development team, DevOps team, and partners. They all should know what's going to happen. Um, Make sure you have a list of contacts in case of severity one level issues. Right, ensure that the team has a list of any documents or work plans to follow in case of any issue. Right, so they are not surprised, or they should know what to do, or what are the right steps after there is an issue. Right. So, so the next thing will be what are the things that you need to do before jumping into the holidays, or what are the things that you might want to look into details, right? So earlier we just discussed the key areas of focus. So now we are going to discuss some of the activities that you can perform before going to the holiday season to ensure that your site performs optimally. Right. So the first things are the logs, right? Having big, large log files can result in performance degradation. Also, SFC Log Center has a limit on log sizes, after which one might not be able to easily navigate the logs in your log center, and you might want to not want to go and look into your text-based log files, right? So it's always a good idea to have a short or small log files. A best practice before the holiday season will be to ensure and review the address and address any code errors, review the errors, identify where the code can be improved to prevent them in the future. Enable alerts to track certain errors and warnings so that you can they can be corrected before the holiday season. So the logs that you can review are import export logs, custom error logs. You can review the staging logs for any replication issues. So this is very important because every log file or every log that is being created is an input output call, right? And you're writing something on the server. So the larger the log file will be, the greater the impact on the performance will be there, right? So we highly recommend that you make sure that there are no significant amount of error. So our next thing will be to look into your controller's response, right? Check, identify your top most used pipelines, observe time it takes to render the page. Make sure that it is under 500 milliseconds. If it is taking more than that, your site might not scale properly, and make sure that it is sorted out before your holiday season start. Try to keep it under 500 milliseconds. Your most used pipeline, for example, the search, the product and the home pipelines are the most used pipeline, but it depends on your site. So just try to identify your top 5 or top 3 pipelines and make sure they are performing properly, right? They are under 500 milliseconds. Then you might want to ensure that the cache hit rate is at maximum, right? The cache miss is relatively low. Look into your cache hit versus miss ratio. Use reports to find caches misses and try to resolve those, especially for high traffic pages, right? So you want to make sure if the page is receiving a high traffic, and most of it is being responded with the cached items, right? You can use the storefront toolkit in order to review this. You can use the cache information tool provided by storefront toolkit along with the reports to analyze the cache levels and compare with them reports to troubleshoot the caching issues. All right, so in order to review or debug pipeline performance issue, you might want to use the pipeline profiler tool that is available in the business manager. It helps to identify controllers, pipeline and script hotspots and fix them. uh, a rule of thumb will be, or what you might want to do is, uh, you look for pipelines spending more than 500 milliseconds, right? Browse them, and by turning your profiler tool all for 15 minutes or so, then look into the hotspot or the areas. Most of the time the hotspots are due to custom code written, such as post processing of search results using non optimal API methods. So it's always a good idea to have a look at these areas and get them optimized before the holiday season starts, right? So this pipeline profiler tool is a very good tool that helps you identify these hotspots and make sure that you use it frequently, right? Or maybe after every sprint, try to look at those new pipelines or controllers that you have built to make sure that they are optimal. All right, so other than this, you need to, regarding the third party integration, make sure that the third party integrations can be turned off using a custom site preference from the business manager. For example, if a third party is not responding and it's just adding a value to the website, but it's not necessary for the checkout, right? So you might want to turn it off for a while so that you can get maximum orders. So making sure if it is possible to turn off a third party is very helpful in the holiday season. Ensure the correct usage of explicit timeout for the third party integration. So for example, if a third party is working or you are consuming a third party web service, right, and it's not responding in the time, so it's keeping the users at your website and it's slowing your checkout process. You might want to keep a proper timeout over there, right? So if it's not responding within a certain amount of time, just leave it and skip with the order, right? So this kind of things help in the high load season or high traffic season. uh, Leverage a design such as service framework that allows for configurable timeouts and disabling of unresponsive services. As we discussed earlier, so the services that you have created, you have already migrated to the service framework, right? So you might want to migrate it to the service framework because it provides these configurable timeouts and things like that. So even for the third party services, if they have not properly utilized the service framework, you might want to upgrade it and make, or if it is already there but they have not configured the timeout, you might want to make sure that the proper timeouts, rate limiting and everything is configured on those services. Review all the web services and third-party integrations and adhere to the points above, right? So you might want to do the same for all your third-party integrations and web services. All right. So another aspect is to look for jobs. As long-running jobs or hung jobs can be costly before the holiday season. Make sure that you don't have any frequent hung jobs or long-running jobs, right? Ensure to schedule the jobs to run at times when the traffic is low. Ensure proper monitoring of jobs. Communicating with third parties is in place, so you are monitoring your jobs and any communication with third parties to make sure that they are not being hung or not, they are not overly taking some time, right? You can use alerts on job status to enhance the monitoring and get email notification regarding the job's health. So that these are the some things that you might want to do with the jobs. Other housekeeping items, right? So you might want to remove any unused promotion and slot configurations. It is not recommended that you have any unused slot or slots or promotion configurations. Look for any quota violation and address them. Check with external tools like webpagetest.org to find any areas of improvement. um, ensure and practicability to undo a code replication just in case. So you should be prepared properly and you should know how to undo a code replication just in case you find there is an issue. You can easily undo the replication. So these are some of the housekeeping items that you might want to look into. All right. So when we talk about the replication, there are some best practices that you might want to follow, well, especially the holiday season. test that the replication process from the staging to development source. So you do test it on the development first before moving it to the production. You just don't want to roll back any code right when you are in the middle of a holiday season. Perform the replication to production when storefront activity is at minimum. This prevents flooding the app server and databases, right? So uh, it's time consuming, and it's difficult for server, right? So what I mean to say, it make sure that you're doing this replication in the hours which when you don't have much traffic, right? Try to avoid the major replications during SFCC standard maintenance window. Use undo feature to roll back the last application that was run if your replicated data is not working as pre-designed. Never clear cache directly after replication finishes. The last step of replication process automatically clears the cache. So that is another thing that we have observed with many clients, that they explicitly clear the cache again after the application. So that happens 2 times, right? So that is not a good practice. So troubleshooting the application issues. For example, if you are facing that my application failed and I need to understand what happened, check the staging logs on the both staging and productions. After replicating the new code data, my site is slow. Consider undo of most recent replication. Note you can only roll back to the last successful data replication. Did you replicate in the middle of the day? So they can be multiple factor, and one of the reason can be that if you did it when there was a high traffic, right? So it can make the site slow for a while, right? Other than that, you can of course roll back the data and see if it helps, right? Replication has been running for hours, my replication is hung. So this can happen. You try to replicate in a high traffic, right? And it hangs, right? So you want to check the staging logs on both staging and production. You might want to restart the production development followed by the staging. The last thing is my replication failed with an error acquiring editing logs. This error occurs if another job is running that is acting on one or more of the items being replicated. It can be catalog import, site import. So make sure no other job is running while you are replicating. So choose a time when there's no such job that is working with your catalog import or import export of something, right? So you need to make sure that the slot is appropriate. So the other aspects that you need to look into if your site is slow, is the slowness seen by a single user, a specific location, or is it seen across the regions? Are you seeing slowness on SFCC instance or any other internet websites? Is the slowness commonly across all instances or seen for a particular instance? Is the slowness reported for a specific page, search result, component, or across the site? Is the issue seen all the time or happening randomly? Is the issue happening at specific time of the day? So these are the different questions that you might want to ask yourself before going into the troubleshooting of the site slowness. So let's start with a specific use case. So for example, if your site is performing slow from a specific location, or the whole internet is slow like a local network issue, so what will we do? uh, you can perform a trace route command right from the Windows command prompt, or a firebug, make a firebug analysis. You might want to look at the waiting time, receiving, and the connecting time. So what if you see the waiting time is the highest, then most probably the issue is on the server side and needs further investigation from code perspective. If the receiving time is high in the graph, then this is a good indication of a local network or a browser issue. And if the connection time is high, right, uh, then it's also a good indication of a possible network issue. So you might want to look into these things if you're facing slow site, right? So these can be three indicators that you might want to look into. So other than that, the slow side can be the cache clears can lead to suboptimal performance during high traffic. What can cause a cache clear? You might have done a code replication or activation. You might have done a data replication like geodata. So geodata and coupons do not clear the cache. Other than those, if you have done any data replication that can clear the cache, manual cache clear from the business manager. So you might want to avoid the cache clear at any cost during the high traffic time, right? Some mistakes to avoid are invalidating cache just before an expected sales peak, invalidating caches several times throughout the day just to bring a specific product or smaller number of changes online. Um, we have seen with that with many customers. For example, they want to have a very real time kind of data right on a particular page, and for that uh, they invalidate the whole cache, right? So it's not a good idea. If you want to do things like that, you might want to do the partial page caching, or create the partial pages, so you do not invalidate the cache of the whole site. But for the if that is required, right? So for doing that for a particular page, you might want to have a partial page cache, but still we discourage that doing it in a high sales peak season, right? So you might want to avoid that. So similarly, invalidating page cache just to bring a piece of static content online, you are invalidating, right, the cache. So you avoid that during the high sale season. So verify whether expensive code. So if your site is still performing slow, you might want to look if an expensive code has been introduced. Things to look for would be: have a new code or feature been deployed? Have any site or global preference changed? Have there been any recent changes to catalogs or integrations? Have there been any changes to the promotion slots and content assets? So these areas can introduce uh, some times or delays into your site response. So you need to make sure. So if you are debugging, you might want to look into those areas. You can use, of course, the pipeline profiler to identify the expensive code in the new deployment. So the next thing, the recommended remediation would be: so if you are getting the slowness due to the code or something like that, or a new replication, data replication, the remediation would be to roll back the code and continue investigation into why this deployment is performance heavy, right? Code can be rolled back via application of type undo. Code can also be rolled back by changing the active code version in the production. Do you have any third party service that is down or unavailable? Third party services could lead to thread exhaustion. For example, if you are continuously pinging a third party service to a web service and it is not responding or halting, so this might be the reason, right? So you have to look into these areas. Things to be aware before the holiday seasons, right? So make sure the email campaigns, if you're starting email campaigns, they adhere to the best practices. For example, do not include email addresses as parameters for your email links going to customers. It is not recommended. Make sure you can turn off web services via web preferences, right? As I told you earlier, that if a web service is hung or is not properly working, you might want to disable it from a custom preference or something, right? So this helps to make things smooth, right? Do not clear cache right before the start of the campaign. Make sure the external web services has explicit timeout set up. Plan on sending out emails in chunks over a period of time, not all at once. Obviously, if you are sending to thousands of customers from your platform, that is not recommended. You might want to use chunks or maybe a third party email service provider, right? Salesforce is not for sending emails, right? So make sure that if you are using the platform, keep the limit on that, right? So the other items can be the monitor the job runtimes on regular basis. Jobs running over 1 hour should be analyzed for possible optimizations. Large data imports should be performed during off hours and never in production, right? Avoid importing data into the production that can be or should be replicated, right? So you, instead of importing data into the production directly, you do that into the staging instance and then replicate it the production instance instead of importing it directly into the production instance, because already there's a lots of traffic there. The production is already busy and you do not want to involve it into importing of data, right? Regularly checking that the indexing preferences are set in accordance with SFCC recommendations. For example, avoid running full indexing rebuilds, rely on incremental indexing for data to be fresh. Full index rebuild should be used minimally to prevent fragmentation over time. Replicate data indexes from staging to production instead of generating them over the production. Avoid including locales that are not really being used in the storefront. So that's another practice that we have seen over the time. That separate indexings are required for each additional locale, which creates overhead, right? So we have seen clients for they have multiple locales configured in their system, but they're not being used, right? So in order to adhere those locales, you have to create, the system has to create separate indexes, right? Which is not right, and it creates a lots of overhead. So you just want to avoid any locales that are not being used to be configured on production or staging, right? So just avoid it altogether, just remove them. Over to you, Asif. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Usman. And it was really a detailed walkthrough which you've given on all of these areas, and I think now everybody will have their own checklist, holiday readiness checklist, aligned with what we have explained here as per Salesforce best practices. Uh, all right, so I'm going to talk about a few of the case studies we have when it comes to performance tuning or load testing or holiday readiness exercise, which we have conducted for some of our existing customers. You see here Shop LC, Brambleberry, Y Design, and few more. Now, for example, if I just take an example of Shop LC, when we connected with them, we saw their homepage was loading in around 20 plus seconds when it comes to complete homepage loading time. And when we went into the code level, we found out that there were some web services getting called. There was some client side scripting and caching issues. So we divided that into client side and server side, and then we analyzed both the areas, and we found out few of the some of the code at the code level was not as per the best practices, were code leaks. And then the front end side also, there were issues. So we were able to brought that time down from 20 plus seconds to 4 seconds. And it was really a great achievement. Customer was very happy, and now they are less worried when it comes to the holiday readiness season, the online shopping season, the peak season which is coming. So our suggestion is that whenever we are working, and the way we work is we keep performance tuning or load testing as part of our release and deployment processes. If let's say if any major release is going to the production, which includes let's say for example a redesign of the product page, or a redesign of the checkout flow, or custom code at the checkout sites, or custom code at the PDP or homepage, or any of these pages. If it is a big module going to the production, then yes, you must have the tenants instance available from Salesforce to do your load testing, to do the code review first thing, then before getting into the production, do the performance tuning or testing requires for those changes, and then do the load testing on that tenant instance, so that you get to know that whether it is adding up anything even in few seconds or in milliseconds to your page time response, page load time. So that is very important. And if you do that, if you do that throughout the year, then yes, I mean, in this peak time, end of the year or last 2 months or 3 months of the year, you will have less to take care of, when it comes to performance. All right, so now we have this special offering for all the attendees and registrants of this webinar, where we are offering 1 week free POC, in which we are going to speak with your team members and address any of your existing business challenges, any of your existing pain points, any issues from the development perspective, front end, back end, UI, UX side, anything which you would like us to look at within the Salesforce space, whether it's Salesforce Commerce Cloud or any CRM relevant changes or any CRM relevant pain points, integrations, we can take care of that in 1 week POC, and we will have our specialized people who can come and join the team and look at those issues. And this offer is available to all of you, and one of our representatives would be reaching out to you over the email and would like to get this information from you guys. All right, so now I'm going to open this forum for the question answers, and we'll take some of the questions from your side. All right, so let's see what we have.